Welcome back everybody to the fifth part of this tutorial series where we are using Tailwind CSS to create this landing page you see over here. So in the last part we created the hero section and we finished it up. So today we're going to be focusing on creating this section, which is the last section. Now this will be the last section of the tutorial series, and as you can see it is a bit simple. So the landing page itself is so small, but the main idea of this tutorial is to help you be more familiar, okay? So to get you an understanding of Tailwind CSS. As I'm gonna create a new supermassive course here on YouTube to help you understand full stack development. So if you're interested about that, subscribe. But today let's continue and create this section over here. So uh, we're going to be continuing with the theme of making our code semantic, and we're going to be creating a section. Inside this section, we have this part and this part. This part is this part has uh, uh, is a list which contains the company's mission, vision, and goal. So obviously, I'm gonna use UL here, UL, and an LI. So first of all, we have this part. So it is red. This one is red. This is called an accordion, by the way. And this part here is red because it is open, it's expanded. But this one is white since it is not open. So we're going to be focusing on creating it unexpanded today. And in the next part, we're going to be using JavaScript to create it and make it expandable and contractible. So let's continue. First of all, we have this two parts. This is the button to be clicked, and this is the actual content. So the button is indicated with a div, with a button actually, since we're using semantic HTML. So button, and we're gonna say our mission, and we actually the button has two parts, right? The first part is the text. So what does this list item now describe, right? So this one describes the mission. The second part is this plus or minus icon. So it's not actually an icon, but rather it is just raw text, as you can see here. So we're just going to be creating another span and saying plus, plus indicating that it is not yet expanded. So when it is expanded, we're going to make it minus. So this is the actual form it will take. So next we have the paragraph to hold the text. So let's just copy this and paste it here. Let's save to format everything. And let's see where we are. Okay, so okay, here. So here we have the button and here we have the content. So it is unstyled currently, and let's style it. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to say text. Not in, the actual button will be text 5 pixel, I think. So actually it's 3 pixel, and on larger screen sizes, let's say 5 pixel. Let's check it out. So when we get it smaller, yeah, I think this works. So next we want the text to be bold. We're going to say that using font bold. Uppercase also, we want the text to be uppercased. And that's it for, yeah. So as you can see here, it is working. Now this might seem a bit too large, so I'm just actually going to decrease it to 2XL and 4XL. So we've discussed about responsive texts and text sizes, what they mean in the previous parts. So check out the playlist if you're not sure. But now we have this working, and we now have to come to the paragraph and say text extra small, which is 12 pixels up, as we have said many times over this series. And on larger screen sizes, it is text small, which is 14 pixels. Great, we have the correct sizes. Next, we have to focus on making the button actually look like a button and look like something that could be clicked. So first we need this background. So it's 0e, 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 which we've been using throughout um, this tutorial series. So we just gotta come to the button and say bg and it's 0e, 0e, 0e. Let's just save it. And as you can see, it has been applied. Also, we need 2020. I'm just going to copy it, just the border color actually. So we got to say border, uh, this color, right? So border 2020. Also, we want to say rounded large, just to give it this rounded corner radius you see here. So let's continue. Yeah. Next, we need to give it a padding. So I'm going to say padding 6 to give it 24 pixel padding from top and bottom from the right and the left. So yeah, okay. Next, I'm just gonna go over to the button and say flex, justify between. Yeah, let's just save. Now, if sorry, if we go to the browser, actually, we won't see any difference. That's because it hasn't actually been applied. So it's flex and it is not taking the full width, so that's the reason. We're going to be fixing that. Don't worry, we're going to be understanding flex more after a few minutes. So actually, let's start. So let's just copy this li and duplicate it 3 times, right? So the second one will be saying, so let's remove one of them. Okay, actually. So the second one will be saying our vision, and the third one will be saying our goal. Okay. Next, what we want to do is we want to first include this image right here. So in Figma, the best way to do this is to actually uh, you can right click and just say copy as and PNG. The shortcut being Control Shift C. So now we can go over to our Explorer in VS Code. We can create a new folder. We can call it assets. That's where we're going to store fonts, images. We're not going to be using those actually, but just it's good practice to make your code modular. So in the assets folder, let's just paste the image. Just say paste and just click F2 to rename it, saying company info accent. Okay, so now we have the image. We have to include it, right? So what I like doing is instead of just importing the image here, I want to wrap it with a div. That would make it easier in the future to work with. So let's just say image source will be // to indicate the current folder, assets / company info accents.png. So let's say uh, I think it's purple, red, and white uh, stripes, just to make our code uh, user friendly. It's not something that you need to worry about. This is simple tutorial, but it's good practice to just provide an alt for your images for screen readers and stuff. So now we have this image right here. Okay, so next thing we want to do is we want to come over to the section and say class flex. Okay, so this will make the content and the buttons, the image and the buttons side by side, as you can see here. Next thing we want to do is we want to give this a max width, right? So it's in maximum it should be 584, and in code actually, let's say class max w, and I'm just going to say 524, just to make it smaller. Yeah. like this. Then what I like to do is actually going over to the button and say uh, you can actually select all the buttons like this. So let's just go over to the button and say here W full. We talked about W full. It means take the full width of the container, and yeah, it should be W full. And the actual justify content space between that we just applied. Now you can see how it's working. Okay. Uh, One thing to add here, you want to let's just select all the paragraphs that we added, and let's just say px. Actually, let's say p6 to give it uh, a padding you see here, right? So here it's 24, 24, 24 all around. It's 24 pixels, it's center, and it has good spacing. Okay, great. So obviously we want this accordion to be inactive at first. So we just want the first part to be visible and the rest to be uh, hidden. So to do that, it's very simple. We just go over to the paragraphs. Uh, okay, just go over to the paragraphs and hide them with hidden. Okay, it's very simple. Just one class hidden here to hidden, save, and they're hidden now. Also, what we would like to do is we want to make this the reddish pink color that we've been using throughout, right? So we just gotta go here instead of a white color, we would like to say text. Uh, so I think it was FF 4954, right? So just FF 4954, and I think yeah, so it's working. Also, we want to change the plus into a minus. So we're going to be doing all this stuff in JavaScript. So when the user clicks it, it's changed and it's responsive, and it has good state management. But not in today's video, in the next part. So subscribe again if you don't want to miss. So great, now we have everything working. One last thing, I think it's a good idea to say item center, but I'm not sure. It might be, yeah, item center doesn't have any effect when the two sizes of the text here, they are both, since we are applying text to Excel and not small text for Excel, so they both have the same size. So text item center or align item center does not have an effect on them. Okay, so we're currently here. What's left is we want this to be a bit smaller. Okay, to do that, we're just gonna go over to the image and add a couple of classes. So max width would be 400 pixels, and on extra large screens, so above extra large, uh, the max width will be 512 pixels, I believe. So if we go over here, you can see that it's actually in a good size. But there still is a problem because when the screen gets smaller, it breaks because, well, it's not actually breaking, but it shouldn't be like this. So what we want to do is very simple. We want to go to the div and we want to say hidden on small screen sizes, and on larger screen sizes, so not small, actually large, we want to say block. So if we now go here, you can see it's working actually. So if we expand it, so one problem actually here is that we need to go up to the flex container and say justify center, since we want the actual content to be uh, center in the center of the screen horizontally. Uh, so one last thing is we want to say gap 16 to give it a 64 pixel gap. So obviously I told you before that you cannot know all of the CSS Tailwind CSS styles um, in memory. So gap 16 is common. So since I've used it many times, I already know what it is. So in time you'll learn it, since if you always work with Tailwind CSS, you have to refer to the Tailwind documentation and you'll pick it up and you remember the basics. So gap 16, let's save. So it is centered and on larger screen sizes, as you can see that it already works. So even on larger screen sizes, it works. Everything is working great. One thing remains actually is to say items center to center align the items. Great. So it's fully responsive. It's fully responsive and it works. Uh, the last thing to do today is just say py for the padding block. So we're going to be keeping with the theme of providing a padding block here. For example, say pt16 to provide a padding top. We said py16, which is actually an inaccuracy since we want to say pt everywhere. So here also we would like to come here and say instead of py pt16. So pt16 padding top 16. We'll just give it a space between the sections, right? So yeah. So actually let's go here and say py since I think more space is needed. So okay. So this is the hero section. As you scroll down, this is the information section and it is working great. It is fully responsive. And actually let's also come here and say py just to give it some space from the bottom. Here it is, and it is working. It's great. So it's a simple actually to implement. So when you see like a design like this, you might be overwhelmed or intimidated, but actually with Stellar CSS it's very simple. And in this tutorial course, mini course, we've been actually seeing how simple Tailwind is, and you don't need to complicate stuff to make it work. So in the next part, we're going to be focusing on a bit of JavaScript to make this work. But for now, today's video, I think that's quite enough. Thanks for everybody for watching. The support on the series so far has been great. Yeah, until the next time we meet, goodbye.